All right, double fries, no slaw. This is something a little bit different. It's Tuesday morning back there in the States where you guys are, and I want to start to do this new show on Tuesdays. I'm working with a business that we're going to have sponsor it very soon. We'll give some shout outs and some plugs here later, but some exciting things coming. I want to do this pretty weekly. Now, these first 2 weeks are going to be different. Number one, because this one had to be pre-recorded because just with time and travel and 5 hour differences, and we're going from London to Ireland today, just couldn't do it live. I plan on being in the comments with you watching it live, so hopefully we can at least hang out down there. So if you have any questions, I'll try and answer them down in the comments. But
This video is brought to you by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino.
next week could be weird as well, just traveling back to the States. The game is on a Sunday instead of a Saturday. That might be a little bit different. Then the week after that could be weird as well, because of the game on Monday night. And so we'll figure all that out. We'll see how all of that goes down. But the idea is through the season to do this show on Tuesday mornings. Not many morning shows that are out there, not many morning shows that we have done. It's all kind of been at night. We do the Wednesday night preview. We do the Sunday night reaction to the game, Sunday night regular show. So this will be something a little bit different. Make sure that you tune in with us. The plan is to go live on Tuesdays at 9 a.m. Again, that could be changed up. That could vary a little bit based on the first couple of weeks being weird in the schedule. Once we get the schedule kind of into and we get going, we get past Labor Day, should be pretty consistently on Tuesday mornings. Might even do it from Tallahassee on Tuesday morning and then head home after that. So hopefully you guys will join us. We'll have a name, we'll have a sponsor, we'll have a bunch of stuff coming for this show very soon. Team traveling to Dublin on Wednesday. That's exciting, right? Like, it comes tomorrow, and we've talked about how quick the offseason has gone. We've talked about how fast things have seemed to move, and this is certainly no exception. Team getting here on Wednesday. I've been told that they will stay after the game, do some stuff around Dublin on Sunday because they do have the extra time, the extra, think about playing on that Monday night against Boston College when you get back to the States. So you have 9 days in between games instead of your typical 7. That is super helpful. Having a couple extra rest days, having a couple of days that you can just kind of relax. They've had obviously a lot of work through the fall camp. They started fall camp earlier than everybody else. They have to play a game a week earlier than everybody else. Have a day off, go enjoy Dublin a little bit. Obviously enjoy that day a lot more if you come away with a win. But probably going to enjoy it nonetheless. Now, these kids certainly want to go out and win, but don't be weirdos if Florida State somehow loses and then you see them enjoying another country on Sunday. Like, let them somewhat enjoy their times. They don't get to take a vacation on the front end of the trip like many of us are getting to do. I am headed back to Dublin. We were there for just a brief time, and then we flew over to London. We did some stuff over here in London. I'm recording this early on Tuesday morning from London so that you guys can watch it when you wake up. You guys are probably almost all asleep right now, but excited to get back over to Dublin. I know there are a ton of people there. I've seen the pictures. I've seen the posts. We've seen some Georgia Tech fans here even in London, but certainly more people that have stopped us and said, go Noles, or hey, I like your shirt or whatever. So, people have asked, what do you think the numbers will look like? I don't know. I mean, blindly guessing 65-35 Florida State, maybe that's way off. Maybe it's really close to 50-50. I would assume that Georgia Tech sold out their allotment. I didn't hear, usually you would hear like if they return tickets. And so maybe there's a pretty good number of Georgia Tech fans. I think more Florida State fans for sure. It's just a bigger fan base, but it's not like a massive stadium. You're not talking about 100,000 person stadium to where Florida State fans can truly just go in and take over just because they have the sheer numbers. I mean, I think it's like 50,000, 55,000. And so, you're not needing that many Georgia Tech fans to kind of eat into that number. I've heard that they're expecting like 27,000, I think is the number, fans from the U.S. coming over. Georgia Tech only needs to get to 13,000 to make that, half, 13 and a half. So, I think they could do that, but I still expect more FSU. I expect more FSU fans there. There were questions. I got a DM on Instagram about a kid with Irish heritage on Georgia Tech's team, and the whole country will be cheering for him, and whatever, great. the whole country cheered against us last year too, and so like that's fine, back in the States. So I don't think that's anything that Florida State's not used to. Travel for the team, people, is that a concern for you? Is that something you're worried about? What about the fact that this is more of a soccer field? It'll take them time to get up to speed. Any negative that Florida State is going to have from that? I mean, Georgia Tech's going to have that too. Now, is there the possibility that Georgia Tech adjusts to that better than Florida State does? I mean, I guess. I mean, that's certainly not out of the realm of possibilities, but there's also the, idea that both teams adjust exactly the same. And there's the idea that Florida State could adjust better to it than Georgia Tech does. And so, at the end of the day, both teams have the same. This isn't like going to Green Bay and playing in Wisconsin in November, right? Like, or December. It's both teams have the same disadvantages and advantages. And so then you kind of roll. I mean, if anything, Georgia Tech's the one losing a home game here and not being able to play in Atlanta, where Florida State has struggled. And so, yeah, if I look at the fact that this is a road game for Florida State, I think it's not way more advantageous for one team or the other. So, all right, I want to talk about DJU and Haynes King a little bit. I saw this graphic on Twitter that was really good, and so I'll pull up and show it to you. College Football Film Room is the one that put it up, and I don't think anybody out there would put. And this isn't a shot at Haynes King, who did have 37 touchdowns last year. That's something that's been brought up pretty repeatedly. Had a really nice year for Georgia Tech. I will say, of those 37 touchdowns, I think 10 of them came against like Group of 5 level talent. They played 2 Group of 5 teams, and then they played UCF as well. That's not a UCF shot. Don't jump into my mentions on Twitter. But a team that was very freshly into the Big 12. I don't know, a better Group of 5 level team, but I don't know that you would say that UCF's talent was up to the level of the Power 4 or Power 5 last year. Again, a much better Group of 5 team, but not somebody that I think that you would say like, oh yeah, this is just a certified baller Power 4 team. And so when you remove, I mean, you can't take those touchdowns away because everybody pads stats against bad teams, and Jameis had 4 or 5 touchdowns against Nevada too in his Heisman year. So those games happen, but his biggest and best games were coming against those teams. And when that's the case, you start to kind of question and wonder, like, well, is he really putting those stats up? It just wasn't the same against most other teams. And so when that's the case, maybe those stats are inflated just a tad. When you really do, though, break down the like the per play stats, like the more advanced metrics, that's where I think things get really interesting. When you look at just all of these things, yard per play, DJU with a pretty significant advantage there at almost a yard per play, yard per attempt more. Look at their completion percentage downfield. DJU at over 8% better at nearly 44%, and Haynes King around 35. You look at the yards per attempt under pressure. You look at how many yards are they ended up converting on just when there's pressure in their face. And I really like Florida State's offensive line. We've kind of belabored that point. I certainly think that they have the advantage there. And so if Florida State's defensive line can put pressure on Haynes King and he's getting less than 5 yards a play when there's pressure in his face, I like that. Sack rate, obviously DJU going to be better at evading sacks, going to know a little bit better when to throw the ball away, when to get rid of the ball. Not a guy that's prone to turnovers like Haynes King was last year. And then third down success rate. There's been a lot of talk. There's been a lot of questions. That obviously that one's closer at 41 to 38. But there's been a lot of talk about what DJ would do when it was like a big third down, right? Like, oh, well, they'll be fine offensively. They'll be fine running the ball. They'll be fine on the line. But then what about when DJ needs to make a play for you? And again, third down success rate at 41.3. I don't think that's like blowing anything out of the water. I don't think that's amazing, but it's certainly better than where King's at. You look at, I think the narrative around DJ is like he's been inconsistent. And so people just immediately think like, oh, bad quarterback. And that's not necessarily the case. I think his floor in this game and really for his career is much higher than Haynes King's. I think his ceiling, just at his absolute best, what you saw him do at Clemson a few times and really what you saw him do against ranked teams at Oregon State, his ceiling's quite a bit higher too. But when you really break down like what they look like in the advanced analytics, DJ is much better, and I think that helps. Right, like that helps your case of trying to think like, oh man, could DJ end up, carrying you to a victory? And I don't know that he'll be needed to, but I certainly think he can. I think the way that Florida State is going to try and attack this game is very ground and pound. I think they'll certainly try and run the ball a ton and set up just easier plays for DJ, 3rd and 4s as opposed to 3rd and 8s, right? And I don't think Florida State will be afraid to run the ball on 3rd and 4 either. I mean, I think they really, really trust their running game, and I think on 3rd and 4 you've got every single play in the playbook available to you. And so if you can get that 2-3 yards on 1st down, and then you can get that again 3-4 yards again on 2nd down, and you set yourself up really manageable on 3rd down, then I think you're in really good shape. They're going to try to run the ball. And Georgia Tech had a really tough time last year stopping the run. Now, they brought some guys in the portal, and they should be better on the defensive line. But I don't know that they're better enough on the defensive line to go up against the best O-line in the ACC and really a top 15-ish O-line probably in all of college football. I don't know that Georgia Tech's there yet. And so, all that said, I mean, that's how I think Florida State tries to attack it. But if DJU needs to go out and make some passes and win you a game, I think we're forgetting about how, just how bad this Georgia Tech defense was at times last year. I mean, this is a team that lost to Bowling Green, and I know they won 7 games, right? Like they did get to a bowl and they won that. If not for the most horrendous coaching decision that we've ever seen in Mario Cristobal not kneeling the ball down with a lead under 30 seconds to go, they don't make a bowl, right? They go to 5-7, and people just look at them a little bit differently. Now, they still capitalized. They still made plays, and they still won that bowl game when they got to it. And so I'm not trying to take that away from them completely, but I do think there's some context and some nuance to the way that you would view that. This is a defense that really didn't stop a lot of people last year. They really weren't, one of the worst defenses in the league. And I don't know that game 1, week 1 against a Mike Norvell coached offense is your time to just try and figure things out on the fly. DJU, for all the talking and all the griping, all the complaining about the kind of quarterback he is or what people's thoughts on him are, I certainly will not be surprised if he goes out and has a really, really good game against Georgia Tech. I also think, and Mike Norvell talks about not necessarily taking the snub personally or not listening to the outside noise or just not factoring any of that stuff in. And I do believe him to an extent. But all that he has heard about, all that the kids have heard about, all that we've heard about as fans over the last couple of weeks or months or whatever is they're just going to try and run the ball, and not let DJU lose the game for him. And it will not surprise me at all if we run the ball just an absolute ton in this game. You're playing, again, on a soccer field. You're playing in what may be wet, nasty conditions. I don't think the weather's supposed to be terrible, but it's supposed to just be kind of, Dublin, Ireland weather all week. I think that running the ball makes a lot of sense. But I won't be surprised at all if Mike Norvell says, yeah, you think I can only run the ball with this kid? Like, you think I brought this kid in to just hand the ball off every single play? It won't surprise me if DJ has 3 passing touchdowns. Like, it won't surprise me at all if he goes out there and has 250 plus yards, right? 300 might be lofty. I don't know. We'll see kind of how things flow. If somebody can break a long 1 or 2 and that really inflates your yards and helps you out. But yeah, it won't surprise me at all if Norvell is ready and willing and DJ is able to go downfield in this game. I think that you're going to want to test Georgia Tech. I think Georgia Tech thinks you're going to run the ball a ton. And so, yeah, if you want to play 6, 7, 8 in the box, like, bring it on. Let's go. Florida State's not going to win a lot of jump balls this year. Florida State's wide receivers are not necessarily going to go up and Keon Coleman somebody, but they do have speed. And so if they want to put guys in the box, I think Norvell will stretch the field. Now, are you going to miss some of those deep passes? Absolutely. You're talking about a kid that didn't throw 70% completions percentage last year. He wasn't lighting the world on fire from that perspective. But you're going to take some shots, and I think that Florida State will be really successful with it. And don't be surprised if Mike Norvell has kind of heard that outside noise and says, like, okay, you think we're just a running team? Like, we do want to run the ball, but don't forget that we brought in a guy with an absolute cannon as well. So, all right, I want to talk a little bit about Georgia Tech's defense versus FSU's offense. But first, I do want to give some love to our friends over at Rapid SEO Host. If you have a WordPress website, you should be hosting with Rapid SEO Host. They have lightning fast web hosting. It'll help you stand out from the competition. And like Mike Norvell says, it'll help you climb up those Google rankings. If you need website updates, online marketing, they do all of that too. If you have a marketing agency, maybe you develop websites for yourself, sign up for their affiliate program and you can get paid to host your clients' websites with Rapid SEO Host. They're noles just like you and I are. They have 20 plus years of experience on WordPress development, marketing, and hosting. They have the ability to help maximize your online footprint and get maximum ROI. So sign up today and get 1 month free. The link is in the description. talking a little bit more about Georgia Tech's defense, I feel really good about Florida State being able to move the ball consistently. And what they'll need to do, and they did this really well a couple of years ago. They did it pretty well last year too. Didn't kick a ton of field goals. I think Fitzgerald attempted 21 on the year, but I think they did a really good job of finishing drives, and they have to be able to do that this year, and certainly in this game. You're playing a weird game with a lot of new pieces in a different country with a team that is capable, right? I don't think Georgia Tech. You have to almost go out and play poorly. Like if you play a good game and Georgia Tech plays a good game, they're not beating you. But a team that is capable of pulling an upset, you need to finish drives, and so Florida State showed in 2022, I think they were even better. I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but man, we were so good the last couple of years in the red zone. Get the ball in the red zone and go score. And I think that was really a struggle in 21 and before. Even before Norvell was here, feel like we could get down in the red zone, we could move the ball, but we just could not find a way into the end zone. And that got a lot better the last 2 years. And that has to continue, right? And I think with the running game, with some of the weapons, it will. But you don't have the emergency valve of Keon or Johnny to just throw a jump ball to in the end zone. And so that is going to change, right? That Norvell scheming things open a little bit better. You remember the Keon play where against Clemson, where he cut to the one side and just kind of left the defender, standing there unaware and caught a wide open touchdown. Is it stuff like that? Is it RPO? Is it using DJ's legs? Is it the threat of DJ's legs? Is it Toa Philly out of the backfield catching passes? More like a little bit bigger guy. Is it him? So, that's really interesting to me is what do they actually look like in the red zone? How close can they truly get and get into score? Now, I think with some of the deep shots this year that you're going to see, I think you will see more long touchdowns. I mean, that wouldn't surprise me at all. We had a couple last year. I mean, Keon certainly made some big plays, and I think about the Hakeem Williams one and others that happened. But, I think about, the deep shots. If you're running those nines, if you're running those go routes, I think that's a big place that Florida State can just kind of like move the ball into the end zone immediately and get going. I have a hard time seeing Florida State's offense not putting up I don't know. To me, like the magic's number between 28 and 31. And I know that sounds crazy. And, I even kind of lean toward the under because I really believe in our defense too. And we'll talk about some betting stuff here in a minute. But I really think that Florida State can put up some points in this game. Georgia Tech's defense, and if they upgraded enough over the offseason to where none of us are expecting it, but they just kind of go off defensively, then we'll get back on here and eat crow later. But I just don't think their defense is good enough to slow you down. I mean, Florida State should score about a touchdown a quarter. And then if you throw in another field goal somewhere in there, I expect Florida State to get to about the 30-ish number. Now, if it's a really slow game and it's a really just ground and pound and Florida State only gets like 8 or 9 possessions for the game, and so you score on 3 of them and then a field goal, score 24, I certainly could see that scenario playing out. But if you look at it and you say, like, man, they're going to get about 8 to 9 to 10 possessions, I think Florida State should score on about 4 of them. And, if that ends up being 2 field goals and 2 touchdowns, then, yeah, you're going to score about 20 instead of 30. But, I mean, I think they've got a really good chance to get around that 28, 30, 31 number. And if they do that, man, it would stun me. It would shock me if Florida State's defense wasn't able to hold Georgia Tech under about 30, right? Like if we're giving up more than 30 to Georgia Tech, we've got much bigger problems on this Adam Fuller coach defense than we ever could have imagined. I think we'll be really good against the run. Georgia Tech has a really good rushing attack, but I like our defensive line a ton. We've talked about defensive tackle depth. I like where Cam Riley is. I like where DJ Lundy is. I like the tackling from the guys in the secondary. I think the defense is going to be really, really good. I think that you're going to probably force Haynes King into a turnover or 2. He was terrible turning the ball over last year. I don't necessarily know that just gets fixed in an offseason, especially when you're playing probably the best defense in the league again to start. But Florida State's offense, Georgia Tech's defense, looking at that specifically, I do think that running the ball is going to be a huge strength. I think that that's going to open up the passing game, what we were talking about with DJU earlier. And I think that you will see downfield shots in this game. Now, if it's rainy and nasty and you're just trying to protect the ball and take care of things, like I could certainly see situations where they weren't going crazy from an air it out, all passing attack. But I do think that they're going to be really good throwing the ball. And I do think that Georgia Tech's defense is going to struggle to stop Florida State's offense. I almost worry more about, what did coaches tell you when you were playing growing up? Like, it's more about us, it's less about them. I do almost worry more about Florida State getting in their own way more than I worry about Georgia Tech stopping the Noles or slowing the Noles down or doing anything defensively that's going to take away from what Florida State wants to do. I just don't think they can. I don't think they can put enough up front. I mean, if DJ's terrible, which he just hasn't been his whole career, like, he's been inconsistent for sure. But I mean, if DJ was just terrible and they put 8 in the box and say you can't run on us and we can't run, I mean, that's kind of like the doomsday scenario. I just don't see that happening. I don't see them being able to do that. I don't think with the weapons that Florida State has that Georgia Tech would be super successful doing that. So we'll see, right? Like, best of luck to Georgia Tech's defense. I think they'll be improved. They had some changes, some turnover on the coaching side of things defensively. I do think they'll improve. I think that takes time, though. I think when you put in new systems, you install you have new coordinators, new assistants. I think that week one against a Florida State Mike Norvell coached offense is not necessarily how you want to see that starting out. We've talked about this, but Mike gets his guys ready really well and really has for the last 3 years. You look at Notre Dame, you look at LSU, 3 Brian Kelly coach teams, and Florida State was really up and really ready. And I don't think like Georgia Tech won't be up and ready, but I do think that Florida State's kind of used to playing these premier matchups really early in the season and knows like, hey man, we got to get out and get going. And I think that'll benefit them in this game as well. So, all right, I want to talk a little bit about some bets for this weekend. This is presented by BetUS. You can go to BetUS right now and get a 125% deposit match up to $2,000 on your first 3 deposits. The link is in the description. These are all lines set on BetUS right now. Of course, they're subject to change as the week goes along, but Florida State is an 11-point favorite against Georgia Tech in Dublin. The over-under on that game is 55. SMU is a 27-point favorite against Nevada. The over-under on that is 56.5. And so let's look at it. So I placed both these bets so we can look right at them and kind of just keep rolling. But I tend to like Florida State minus 11 here. I tend to lean on the over-under. So you can do with that what you will. I know that I'm talking about us scoring 30 points and then hitting the under. But yes, I really like our defense. A 31-17 game wouldn't surprise me at all. That'd put you at 48. You'd still be pretty safe under that under. Even if they got to 31-20, you'd be pretty safe. I'm more confident in Florida State minus 11 than I am the under, so I put a full unit on the spread and a half unit on the under, and then I did the same thing with the other game. I think SMU tries to come out and make a statement. I know Nevada's not an ACC team, but I do think that Rhett Lashley is going to run scores up if and when he can. I think that you're certainly going to see SMU try to make statements this year. We'll see how successful they are with that in the ACC. But because I think he knows his schedule gets much tougher, I think in games that are not, games that they're supposed to blow guys out in, they're going to do it. They're not taking their foot off the pedal. They want that national recognition. They want to come out and win by 30, 40. Now, I know it's at Nevada. Maybe that's a little bit of a trap, but minus 27, I like them to cover. But again, I also like the under. They return a ton of experience on that defense. I don't think Nevada will be able to move the ball very well. I know that taking an under when you take a team to cover by 27 is insane, but it would not surprise me at all to see something like a 38-10 game or a 38-3 game where Nevada just cannot move the ball. Obviously, same thing there. I put a half a unit on the over-under. I put a full unit, $100 on the spread. If you're not familiar with unit betting, you're just taking the same amount and betting it every single time based on your bankroll and what percentage you want to put down on games. So a full unit on both spreads and a half on the totals. I like both favorites to cover, 11 and 27. And then again, I like the under in both games. Let's not start this year out going 0 for 4. I will do a weekly betting section. We will track it. We'll keep up with it. So let's not start out the year 0 for 4. Give me the Noles to cover. Just give me the Noles to win at the end of the day, and I'll feel pretty good. We'll have way more bets on next week's episode just due to the fact that there are way more games. There are a few more games. I remember there being more week 0 games last year, so that's kind of weird to me. But anyway, all right, I appreciate you guys for tuning in. I appreciate you guys for hanging out. Again, hopefully I was able to jump in live in the comments with you down below as this was going. But again, appreciate you guys for always supporting, always hanging out, and we'll talk to you soon. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Excited to do this again on Tuesday mornings. Excited to tell you about some partners we'll have for this show specifically in the coming weeks. We appreciate you guys for tuning in. Go Noles.